What up? What up? What's up? What's up? Late night live stream. What's good? Who's up? What's up? What's up? Appreciate you guys coming in. Appreciate you guys coming in. Late night. Where you guys watching from? 1206. That's grind. 1206. I remember those days. That's East Coast. Boston. Love it. East Coast. That's the grind. 7 p.m., 2 a.m. in the morning. India. I love it. India, 6. It's like early in the morning, I think, in India. Uganda. Love it. Love it. What's up, guys? Dallas, 1107. Nice. Love it. That's the cool thing about YouTube. Everybody's all over the world. Love that. That's pretty cool. That's dope. India is morning. I work with a lot of folks. Obviously, over the last 10 years, I've worked with a lot of folks from India. And so I know basically this time, Lakers did win. This time is morning for India, plus 30 minutes. Yep. Or minus 30 minutes. Yep. 8:07 in India. That's dope. Mississippi. That's you guys on the East Coast. Shout out to all you guys. What are you guys up to? Working, grinding, watching YouTube, getting motivated? Philippines, dope. 12 o'clock noon in Philippines. That's awesome. Just started my own business. That's awesome. Just woke up. I love it. I love it. I love it. But I'm on this e-commerce website. That's cool. Yeah, I love. Somebody said they just started an e-commerce website. I like e-commerce. I was actually thinking about getting into Shopify, drop shipping and stuff like that. I love that. Cool. Coding. Shout out to India. I got love for folks in India. So really quick, I'm just jumping on for about 20 minutes, 30 minutes or so, but I wanted to say something real quick. I'm on this new kick, common sense UX design. And the thing about the common sense thing is this. I'm all about simplicity. And when it comes to what's up, Joe? When it comes to anything we do in tech, whether it's front-end development, design, anything like that, I come from a background where I'm self-taught. Burrito break. Eduardo said he gets on a burrito break. I come from a background where I'm self-taught. And I naturally have to keep things simple. And in the corporate world where I've worked for the last 20 years, people continuously in the tech industry continuously make it difficult, or it seems difficult from looking from the outside, looking in. Like all of the textbook theory stuff that we see in articles, all the stuff that job descriptions say that you need to know, all the stuff that, other tech professionals, when they go on stage and they say certain things, they all sort of try to play a game. So everyone wants to, like when everyone shows you their PowerPoint presentation, it's really nice and it's pretty and it has all these big fancy terms, and you're looking from the outside looking in And I'm the same way because I've actually infiltrated the walls. Like I'm in the place and I'm looking at this stuff. I'm like, everything seems difficult from the outside looking in. Like everything seems difficult from what people are teaching. But the reality is when you're infiltrate the walls, when you're in there, and I've been around all types of stuff, and I'm like, why is it so difficult? It's just common sense stuff. It's common sense. Common sense. So I'm on this common sense thing. Like everything is just common sense. It needs to be dumbed down. Not dumbed down, but I think there needs to be a voice like mine in tech space saying stuff like this so that other people and companies and leaders and gatekeepers and all that stuff say, or at least move towards that feeling, and they start breaking down barriers and breaking down walls. And what happens is they don't hold people accountable or hold people to a particular standard that's unrealistic, and they let other people win. They let Google starts to drop their sort of standards or lower their standards a little bit. Other tech companies start lowering their standards and start opening things up, and now the net's bigger and more people can actually have a voice and kind of get in. And then also if nothing changes, if anything, I'm going to do is just teach common sense design, common sense, an approach that you master in a common sense way. And then you just sort of play the game as you interview for companies and stuff like that. And once you get in, you realize that I'm right, that it's all common sense. And it's all common sense. A lot of people, if you're in the tech industry, and a lot of UX designers don't like when I use the term common sense. They think that, it's, I don't know, dumbing it down a little bit. But I think people have to be realistic. And not be so insecure about their role and just look at things. Brandon said, I wish I had common sense not to be knee deep in a UX grad degree right now. Listen, everybody needs structure and everybody needs a different approach. You know what? It's all a learning experience. If you got a degree and you think, hey, I could have learned this on YouTube, I could have learned this on that. It's all a learning experience. It's all a learning experience. And then you realize that, you know what? Some people need it that way. If I was good at school, I would have went to school, but I like doing stuff like this, late night, looking on YouTube, learning on my own. And then if I fail, nobody's really there to give me a grade or anything or tell me right from wrong. It's like I can learn on my own. Appreciate that. Big fan of your channel. Been using your stuff for a while. Appreciate that. No, if you lower the standards of what I'm talking about, it doesn't lead to an over saturation in the job market, because when I'm saying UX design is common sense, or common sense UX design, what now needs to be taught is common sense. Basically, common sense needs to be taught. And basically what common sense is basically just a purposeful thinking. If you're thinking purposefully and applying critical thinking, you use common sense. And common sense doesn't mean that there are no rules. Common sense, so to speak, is common sense. Like, you're walking, and if you keep banging into a wall, common sense tells you to move the other way. And so if you keep banging into the wall, it's wrong. Okay. However you want to say it, but it's like, Common sense would tell you, okay, you bumped into something, try this route. That's common sense. So you take that, you start at the foundation of like, hey, it's not difficult. What is common sense? It's like purposeful thinking. And now you apply that to you apply that to a product. Okay, you think about what UX designers are. We are product designers. What is the goal of a product? When you design a product, the goal is to design a product, and the UX designer is to design a good experience, for the end user. How you get to that end result can be done in many different situations. It can be done in many different ways, many different methods, many different usages, or many different possibilities, many different solutions. I can come in and I could go, okay, I know what this client wants because 10 years ago I designed something similar. So I could design something without even testing users and get to a high degree of certainty that there's going to be a good user experience. Somebody else comes in with lesser experience, they might have to ask the customer some questions and things like that. There's no right and wrong on how you approach it, but at the end of the day, it's all about designing a good experience. And how you get there, sometimes I don't need wireframes. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I don't need sticky notes. Sometimes I may need sticky notes. Sometimes I may need to ask the user some questions. Maybe sometimes I don't. It's all like common. You get what I'm saying? It's all common sense. Like there's no right and wrong. There's no right and wrong. There's no right and wrong on what methods you use. But at the end of the day, you're shipping out a product. You have 100 customers. A majority of them saying this is a good experience. If they say that, then you've done a good job. If there's 20 that's saying, hey, there needs to be some correction here, then guess what? You need to look at it and iterate. And then you fix it, and you might make some adjustments. You try to improve on the experience for those 20 that are complaining about certain issues and touching on their pain points. And then, you move forward. A lot of UX designers will think that because you're a UX designer, you have the right answers. No one has the right answers. You just kind of use common sense, and you try to improve the product, and kind of keep an ear onto the customer. Common sense is like this. Let's say you launch a product. And you have 100 customers, and you hear that someone's not being able to use your product correctly. Common sense will tell you to try to figure out what the issues are. What are their pain points? And so as a UX designer, designing user-centered design is discovering what the user pain points are. So how do you find out of those 100 customers, those 20 that are having some issues, what are their pain points? What do? You can email them. You could send them a letter. You could call them. However you get them on the phone or contact with them, there's no right and wrong, right? You end up sending an email today. You send an email, they apply to you or whatever. You say, hey, can we talk? And you have an interview with them. You have a discussion over the phone. Maybe you hang up and you go, hey, tomorrow I'll send you a Zoom link, and we'll connect on Zoom, and you show me your screenshot and show me what issues you're having. You do that the next day. They show you what issues they're having. Now you're like, aha, the light bulb goes off. And now you're able to go back to the drawing board and fix that. That's called user research, user testing, usability studies. How I accomplish that is it's not rocket science. It's common sense. You approach it in different ways. So that's what I mean when I say stuff is common sense. Doesn't mean that you don't have to learn certain things and you won't grow in experience as a designer and get better at it and know how to solve problems and know how to think through problems a little bit better. That's just experience. Everybody with experience, as you grow, you're going to get better on the job and do things. Let me ask you these questions. Hey, Mike, there are more smaller companies than bigger companies. Most likely, they want a person who can code. Yeah, Joe, I need to write a book, Common Sense UX Design. I like that. You know what I did today? I bought the domain name Common Sense UX Design. Common Sense UX Design. I actually bought that domain name. I'm going to start coining this phrase, Common Sense UX Design. So if you hear other people using Common Sense UX Design, I started it first. So someone asked, David Park said that there's smaller companies than bigger companies, and most likely the smaller companies would possibly look for people that UX designers that can code a little bit. That is not untrue. Smaller companies may, Joe's left. Smaller companies you may benefit if you have a variety of skills. Smaller companies may value you a lot more. That's a very true statement. And so I don't know. I just personally like when I look for jobs, when I look for UX design jobs over the last 10 years, obviously I've been in a situation where smaller companies may not be able to afford a senior level product designer. So obviously the companies that I'm looking at are bigger companies, but what you're saying isn't untrue. Like if there are smaller companies and they're in need of product designers and stuff like that, and you're at a level where you're making X and they're willing to pay X, they might be looking for somebody that has multiple skills. And that's actually a true statement. So, and there are a lot of smaller companies out there. Never sleep on those small companies. So someone said, Brandon said, last few interviews have been asked about responsive design, and how well understood HTML, CSS. So write this down. This is all you have to do because I'm quite familiar with HTML, CSS, and media queries and all that stuff, and responsive designs. Just tell them that. Just say, hey, you know what? As a front end, if someone asks you about responsive designs, you can say, what do I know about responsive designs? That when I design my screens, I have to be aware of the different breakpoints and that it's going to be viewed on a desktop, tablet, and a mobile device. And as a responsive design, coding in a responsive way, it uses media queries. Obviously media queries are scripts of code that changes the CSS based on different breakpoints. And so what else can you say about that other than the fact that if I was coding the site, I would know about this stuff. But as a designer, I just need to know if I'm working. Responsive comes into play like this. I need to design for responsive breakpoints and responsive resolutions. And if I'm working with a developer, we both need to be aware of that. And we both need to communicate on the different breakpoints and where, at what point does it break? At what point does it respond? At what point does, what's our maximum width? What's our minimum width in terms of resolutions and things like that? All that stuff. I mean, there's a complexity that goes into it, but there's not like one answer, but if someone asked me that, I'll be like, yeah, I'm quite familiar with responsive designs and all that stuff. But to be honest with you, like, for example, at 80, I mean, this is stuff you can learn. Stuff you can learn. Does having a coding background, let me see, does having a coding background truly help when applying though? Nah, I mean, listen, having a coding background will only divert your expertise and it will spread it thin. So as someone like myself, I design and I'm consider myself an expert in UX methods and principles and understanding the UX concepts. Coding, if I was just coding and stuff like that, it would spread my attention this way rather than being an expert in one discipline. And so knowing how to code, knowing how to design, you're spreading yourself thin. you are learning invaluable skills. But in the world of tech, you do a search for UX designers. They're mostly hiring for UX designers, and you're going to be working with a front end developer. You're not going to be doing both. And so, but it's you have to feel it out. You have to feel it out. There's no companies that pay you like double. They won't pay you what you think. Like if you knew how to code really well and knew how to design really well, they're not going to pay you for being a top designer and being a top developer. Like we would think that would be the case. Like I always thought that. I'm like, I know how to code, I know how to design. I should be making $200,000 or whatever. Pay me $100,000 for a designer, $100,000 for being a front end developer. $200,000. That's what I used to think that back in the day. They don't think that way. They're like, you're getting paid for a UI designer. I'm like, screw you. I'm gonna go build on this WordPress stuff on the side. But that used to be my thinking, and that's our thinking, right? Because we code, but you know how to code, you know how to design. It's great for startups, and startups there might be low pay initially, but there's big payoff sometimes in startups. I wish right now, I would love to get with a startup. I'm at a part right now in my life where I'm moving on to like more coaching and stuff like that. And I want to do less day-to-day design for companies, but and so I'm going to move into like more coaching, mentorship and stuff like that. But if I had I'm waiting either to build my own thing, or I would partner with somebody and work with somebody and build a startup if it was a really good product. I would love that. Why does my portfolio suck? All of our portfolios suck. Listen, we're always critical of ourselves. Real talk here. So that's a funny question that you say, but we all think that our portfolio should be better. Like we spend a lot of time on our portfolio, and then we look at Dribbble and we see these amazing designers, and we're like, dang, our portfolio should be like that. Listen, that's just life. Okay. That's just life. Our portfolios, my portfolio, your portfolio may not be as good as this top designer out there. Certain people are very talented in different things. But I will say this, certain times, like I tweeted this out not too long ago, is don't be afraid to copy, not copy for your portfolio, but copy, like basically scrap all your work at some point and start mimicking these other designers and push yourself to design like them. It's a very interesting play, and it's very hard for us designers to change the way our habits. Like it's really difficult. Like if I look at your designs, I'm sure I look at any one of your portfolios, all of your projects, let's say you have 2 or 3 projects, I'm sure they all have some intricacies, some little details that all look the same. Like mine used to do that. Every site used to look the same, or every site had some things that just looked like my style. And then I look at Dribbble and I'm like, dang, how are designed like that? And so I just kind of, long story short, this is stuff that I'm going to be talking about more, but it's all getting into the details and just kind of scrapping how you used to do things and just looking at what other people are doing and trying to mimic their stuff. Great question. School versus boot camp versus self-study. Get this. So I'm not going to say any names, but somebody hit me up on LinkedIn and was complaining about, it was like, he was honest, and I would never use his name, and he actually never told me the boot camp he was in, but he said he is going through horror stories right now through the COVID, something with boot camps. Another person hit me up about boot camps. Another person, like almost 3 people within like 3 weeks, mentioned to me, I didn't even like press on them. They mentioned to me about boot camps, and I was trying to like push back at them. Like, what was it? Is it the price? Is it it was partly the price, but also partly the fact that they didn't fulfill their end of the bargain in terms of really working with them and stuff like that. And it just wasn't going well. apparently. So boot camps, to me, personally, here's real talk. This is honest truth. If I was somebody and you had an opportunity, yes, if I would first do like Udemy, like online courses and stuff like that, and go with online courses first. And go with online courses first, because you're only going to spend 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 100, 150 under, you're going to spend under $500 learning a boatload of crap. And that's a lot less than, yeah, $12.99 versus $20K. Of course. Yeah. You can learn on a weekend. Now you have to be self-disciplined. Obviously, boot camps, I think, hold you accountable. School holds you accountable, because you're based whenever somebody is accountable to somebody else, they actually are pushed ahead. They're pushed further. That's just the truth. Even when you become an entrepreneur, there's nobody to be accountable for. Even your customers, you're like, I can email them later, and it's hard to get up in the morning. It's hard to stay disciplined 8 hours a day like you did on your full-time job. But at your full-time job, you're accountable to somebody. And so you have to get there by 8. School, you have to get there at a certain time. You have to complete assignments. And so it pushes you. That's the difference between self-learning and in school. I'm more of a self-taught person. That's just how I am. I don't, even my courses and stuff like that, I don't have any certificates. It's just basically knowledge and skill transfer. And you learn it, and then you have to apply it to your portfolios and stuff like that. Sophisticated. I got my glasses. I got to get contacts. I'm going to get some contacts, because the glare of the light keeps getting in my eyes at night. But how often do you give presentations? Is it scary, or stakeholders scary to present to? So when it comes to, so there's four things, and I said this in my last live talk on Instagram. There's 4 things that every designer needs to know: visual UI design, problem-solving process, and you'll fine-tune that over time. The third one is a habit of critical thinking. That's basically a habit of asking questions as you go through your designs and you're working with product owners and stakeholders. But also the 4th one is communication. And so communication is a key skill or key thing that you're going to use day to day. Those are the 4: visual design, problem solving, critical thinking, and communication, because you're communicating with not only your developers, your product owners, but also stakeholders. And somebody asked me a question about presenting to stakeholders. Presenting to stakeholders is not scary. Basically, as you get more experience and as you go, you're designing a site. A lot of times in day to day, this is how it works. A product owner is going to show you something that they want you to design, and they're telling you the problems that they're trying to solve for. So you go back to your desk, and as you design mock-ups and stuff like that, and you have prototypes, whether it's in Figma and InVision, you might present, and stakeholders might be there. And a lot of times this is your opportunity to actually add some value. Those stakeholders, a lot of times they end up liking you. And so I became very, very confident in what I was designing. And so you present it and you say, so here's a dashboard. We broke it into 4 different modules and things, this, that. And then so clicking on this module expands this panel. And then you can close it here. We moved the navigation to the left to give it room and stuff like that. And then the stakeholders start chiming in. So why is there white space at the bottom of the page? Why is that going to get cleaned up or something like that? Stakeholders will say stuff like that, right? And they'll say like, okay, this is cool. And so they'll just ask questions, stuff like that. And basically, leaders of every company, mostly all stakeholders, big stakeholders, they're always going to have feedback. Nothing you present to a stakeholder is you're ever going to be like the stakeholder just sitting there and go, great job. All right, let's go to lunch. Like they're going to always like nitpick at your stuff. And it's not a direct hit at you. It's just that's what they do. So anyway, but that's your video, your stuff was really helpful. I appreciate that. How many iterations is too many? So someone asked, how many iterations is too many? Good question. Basically, when I first started designing, obviously you give three. Now I don't. I give one. I give one iteration. Basically, what does that mean? That means a lot of discussion up front. In the initial meeting with whoever you're designing for, make sure you ask a million questions, because asking a million questions, now I could get to at least 80% of what you want. And then that means I give you one mock-up, and then we're 80% there. And so from that point, we just kind of schmidge it and move things around till we get to the point to where you want. If I give you 3 mock-ups, I'm just confusing you, and it's a waste of my time. That's how I feel. I don't do 3 mock-ups anymore. I don't do 3 choices, 3 iterations. Not you. Or iterations, if you're thinking about changes back and forth, that's unlimited. So you go back and forth, you're like, hey, come on, man. If you're realistic about it, you're like, we need to stop making changes. Like, it's like at some point you got to stop making changes, but it's like it's an unwritten rule. At some point they'll be like, all right, we got to move forward with this stuff. So what would UX be like in 2025? I think it'd be the same. I think it'd be more opportunities out there. I think I'm going to be talking about this more, but I think in the next coming year, there's going to be a hiring surge in the next coming year. And I think when you look at 2021, 2022, as companies right now are hit with COVID, I think you're going to see them pivot. You're going to see a lot of new things coming up over the next 2 years. So when somebody say, like right now, there's a lot of app development with like ordering, right? So that's a big part of technology, ordering on the phone. You're basically ordering from every restaurant. It's delivery service. You have all this stuff, like looks like everything looks like Uber. You can see your delivery guy coming in, Dash, Postmates, what have you. And so that wasn't around obviously 4 years ago. And so 5 years from now, you're going to have something new that's tech related that everybody moves into. So you're still going to have a hiring surge over the next year or two. And you're going to have UX designers doing the same thing, but moving in different directions. There are going to be different opportunities. There's going to be obviously SaaS products like business software, enterprise software. There are a lot of mobile, like new different industries and stuff like that. So it's going to be more of the same, in my opinion. I don't think there's going to be like, I don't know about VR, any of that stuff. It's like, I don't mess around with that stuff. It's not part of what I do. So. Yep. Stakeholders poke at you and ask questions, stuff like that. Let me see. There are 10 people who work at Netflix without college degrees. Rest of them have college background, related and not related. Dave Park said that. Mm-hmm. Yep. Will said, I got a bachelor's in UX from YouTube University. That's right. YouTube University. When I started, I used to, obviously, when I started, you guys remember lynda.com? Lynda, I'm sure she's around. I don't use lynda.com, but that was my source when I learned, Adobe Illustrator through lynda.com, Photoshop. And then I learned Flash. You guys remember Flash back in the day? Flash was the thing. And I learned Flash. All that was from lynda.com. I remember having a subscription to their site for about 4 or 5 months. And then once I learned it, you're good. You just move on. Yeah. Flash games, rest in peace. Christopher said he was a Flash animator for 10 years. Yep. I still have YouTube videos, tutorials about Flash. I used to love Flash. So someone said it's hard to finish courses from start to finish. It is because someone said it's hard to finish courses from beginning to end, and it is hard because we all have short attention spans, and when we learn certain things we want to move on, and some certain things, certain part of courses are actually non-essential, right? Once you learn here's something to keep in mind for all you guys. Whether you code or you design, there's only about 10 things that you really need to know. Those 10 things can do everything. Does that make sense? So, and then there's a lot of stuff in the back end that you really don't need to know. Like you can learn it, but it's non-essential. Like, for example, I'll give you an analogy. I was playing a card game with a friend, and the guy knew every freaking like answer in the world. Like, it was just, he knew when the Roman Empire collapsed, or he knew this. He knew how many stars there were in a galaxy, or how. I'm like, bro, you know a lot of non-essential stuff. Like, but he was very smart. But I'm like, I know none of it. All I know is I can go to Google and search it. Long story short is there are essential things and there are non-essential things. You can finish a course from beginning to end, and basically, you would learn a lot, but it'd be some of that, a big chunk of that would be excess fat. 20%. Yep. It'd be excess fat. Yep, that's right. 20%, that gives you the 80. Yep. That's definitely true. Because I know, like, any app I go into, if I go into Sketch, I know about 10 strong things in Sketch, and I can design anything. In Figma, I know about 10 things. I can design anything. If I wanted to learn, when I learned Photoshop, it was like 10 things that I knew. And then if I ever needed to know something, I go to YouTube and ask for it. Somebody asked about my real estate plans. Yep. So my wife is a top real estate agent, and basically that's a big growing business of ours. And so, real estate, I manage all our digital marketing, stuff like that. So real estate has been good to us. We've been in real estate for like the last 13 years, and we did some flips and all this stuff. And so real estate's a big part of everyone's life. If you get to a point and, you want to grow and you want to invest and stuff like that. So my wife is hardcore into real estate day to day. And I'm basically in digital space. I'm located, no, I'm on the West Coast. So if you guys, I'm on the West Coast. If you guys on the West Coast, I'm in Santa Clarita, next to Magic Mountain. If you ever know where that is, that's where I live, in a nice little suburb in Santa Clarita. I grew up in the hood, though. I grew up in LA. Grew up all over. I moved like 8-10 times. Lived in the ghetto. Lived in the projects in LA. Grew up in LA. 52nd Street School, John Muir Junior High. My brother and sisters went to Manual Arts and Crenshaw High and all that stuff. And so grew up in a bad area, but I got out after high school. You can make it out. I'm starting to learn Figma. Someone said, is that a good program? Yep, definitely. Figma is a good program to learn. To be honest with you, my next course is going to be an essential course: visual design, problem solving, critical thinking, and communication. And the visual design part will be taught in Figma, because Figma, you can use it if you're on PC and Mac. And I think my last course was in Sketch. My new course will be in Figma, just because it can reach more people. And I'm going to teach the essential things in that, and teach the importance of visual design. And it will be done in Figma. So definitely, Figma is a way to go. Figma If you know Figma and if you learn Figma, you can learn Sketch pretty easy. If you know Sketch, you can learn Figma pretty easy. If you know one of those two, you can learn Adobe XD pretty easy. So yeah, Figma is definitely easy. Someone said it's an industry standard. So a lot of companies might be looking. More companies look for designers, or there might be more on Figma or Sketch. I don't know of a lot of companies collectively only using Adobe XD. I think a lot of individuals use Adobe XD because it's low cost and they have access to the Creative Cloud and things like that. But so somebody asked Figma, Sketch, or XD. So get this. I did a what do you call it? A poll on Twitter. I actually paid for this poll. I clicked it. I mean, I paid $100 for Twitter to blast it out. It got like almost 2,000 reply votes. Adobe XD won by a large margin. Adobe XD. So the question was, what tool do you use primarily? Adobe XD, Figma, Sketch, and InVision, or other. Adobe XD was like 46%. Figma was somewhere else in there. Sketch was the third one, and then other was something else. Sketch was like the last tool on that poll. So there was a lot. I call that a lot of noise in that poll, and what that means is, because every company I've been with always used Sketch. No one's ever used, the last 5-6 years, nobody used Adobe XD. But what happens, what that tells me is that individuals are mostly using Adobe XD because they already have access to the Creative Cloud. And so if you ask somebody that, they would have to be specifically a UX designer in a corp environment to use Sketch, right? So if I'm on my own and I get Adobe XD for free or for $10, I might just use that. And so I think that's where somebody was saying, that's where I think that's why XD had a large margin of people using it. So I'm still curious about that. But I think Adobe XD for me it's not fully featured enough. Like me as a power user, I need certain things. And so I don't use Adobe XD. Nope, UX designers don't have to learn programming. Mike, do you think a HCI degree is enough to land a job, or do you think a killer portfolio is mandatory? I challenge people with human computer interaction degrees or human computer, HCI degrees. So somebody is asking, do I think HCI degree is enough to land a job? So human computer interaction is the new discipline that colleges teach, that where you can get a degree in human computer interaction. It's like human psychology, like understanding how humans interact with computers and stuff like that. And so there's if you're growing into like the highest part of like your certification as a UX designer, you can move up and have degrees and master degrees in human computer interaction. And it makes you appear to be a very knowledgeable, important person in the UX design space. The problem is, I've worked with people with human computer HCI degrees and stuff like that, both master degrees and PhDs. And it was still basically common sense. There was nothing that they knew that I didn't know, and what my common sense taught me. Now, if you say, would it help me get a job? If you went out and you got your master's in HCI and you talk the way I talk, of course. If I had HCI degree or a master's degree in HCI, I mean, I'd probably be seen as a freaking genius, right? I don't know. But here I am, guy from the streets, just talking common sense in UX design. But so definitely, it will look good to you on the resume. And a lot of these gatekeepers who hold people accountable, hold us designers accountable to a certain standard, they would see my resume and go, that guy has a master's degree in human computer interaction. Yes, let's bring him in. So definitely it will help you land a job. But like going to school for me was never an option. So if going to school never for you isn't an option, then you have to take my route and go from the street and just kind of grind through a portfolio and expertise and like, your communication skills and understanding UX design. So um, it's a very, I don't know. I wouldn't spend 50K to get all these degrees and just to be a UX designer. I just don't see why that's necessary. But if that's your route, that's your route, and I won't knock it. Exactly. No student loans. No student loans for me. Are you an IC or a design manager? I don't know what the IC is. Or I'm not a design manager. So here's the thing. I think if I stayed in corporate, because I'm like, if I stayed in corporate, I would probably at some point want to go into more director role. But one of the things about me, and I never became a director very early on in my career because I always thought directors were. First off, I always had one foot out the door in every company that I've worked at because I always did my own thing on the side. I was always grinding, side hustles, free from early on, freelance. I was doing blogs, I was doing YouTube videos. So I had one foot out the door, basically, in every company that I've worked at. And so I never cared to move up to become a manager, but I always thought at all these companies, managers they're basically like, they don't do anything. So if a company was struggling, I always thought they're the first to get let go so I always thought I need to be invaluable. So I needed to be the person, like I was mainly the main person, the main designer working with developers. Like, so if a company was going under or if they were struggling, they wouldn't let me go. They would let that manager go who's kicking his feet up and sitting in the office. So I always had that in my mind. Now that probably was the wrong thinking. I probably should have got in management early. But I was always managing my own stuff outside. So I never really got in. I was always like hands-on principal, senior UX designer. Yep. Appreciate that, Thomas. Love the vids. Yeah. Yeah. So get this. So I've been doing YouTube for a long. This is a principle that anybody can take. Like, there's no right and wrong on how we do any of this stuff. I've been doing YouTube videos for like 10 years. I just started doing live like 2-3 days ago because I just didn't do it. I didn't know how to do it. I don't even know how to do like audio. Like, I have this thing here. I barely set this up recently, and and my audio for 10 years, it's been crap. I mean, I don't care. It's like, I don't have time for it. I'm just holding stuff. And now I got to the point to where I'm just doing informal videos, like live videos, and holding the camera, stuff like that, where, trying to be perfect. It's like, yeah, sometimes I try to do it, but then I can't uphold it. And long story short is, there's no right and wrong on how you do any of this stuff. You just do it, try doing it this way, doing that way, and then you just move on. So the point is this. Yep. Somebody said, Craig says he's been watching me since 2009. That's dope. Exactly. So look, I've been doing this since 2009. I just started doing lives like 2-3 days ago, and it changed my life in the sense that I feel like I'm just now getting started. Like, I feel like I'm just now getting started. Like, oh, I can do lives. I'm going to do lives on Instagram, lives on YouTube. I'm going to do lives on LinkedIn. I'm going to do lives on, heck, do people still use Facebook? I don't have a Facebook account. I have a Facebook account, but I don't use it. And yep, 2009. I started back in 2009. So I started in 2009, then I would stop I started in 2009, then I would stop, I think, for like a year, then I started. And get this, when I started, because anybody can start. Like, so when I started, there was like a YouTuber, and her name was, it was a woman who did like website designs. It was like to create a website or something like that. And she had like 20,000 subscribers, and I had 0, or I had like 50 subscribers. And I was like, is it too late to get started? That was back in 2009. That's funny. And it's like, it's too late to get started. It's not too late for anybody to get started. You just go. Everybody build their own personal brand. And guess what? Somebody's going to watch me. Then I'll watch you. And then they'll watch that person, that person, that person, that person, that, and everybody watches everybody for different little nuggets and different insights, you know? But, yeah. Thomas said, I haven't done live on my channel either. It seems like an extra tech hurdle. You know, the thing about me, yeah, I see people do, I don't know how to do super chats on. Yeah. So like people do the super chats. I see people making money through super chats, things like that. The thing about lives for me was I was always somebody who recorded a video, and then I was like, I just got to like say a certain thing and then not be so informal. I didn't know that I should just let go and just talk live and just chat a little bit. Once I did it, I was like, oh, that's dope. I should do that more. And so it just kind of, I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Michael. I appreciate that. Yep. I speak the truth. I appreciate that. Yep. Yeah, I have all type of topics. I can talk religion, I can talk politics, I can talk corporate, like anything. That's for another channel. I used to debate people in Christian, but I used to debate in apologetics and stuff like that. So I get deep in every topic. As your design strategy to land my first corporate job, in-house graphic designer, I'm more focused on UX design skills. After all the years, yep. Wait, I'm more focused on UX design after all these years. The problem I'm having is I got many things to learn, like UI design, graphic design, vector, and web development. Listen, if you're a designer, if you're a product designer, it's simple. You don't have to learn all that stuff. Everybody loves development, front-end development. Everybody loves HTML, CSS. Everybody loves this. Everybody coding. This is my opinion. If you have a job, learn whatever you want. But if you're grinding towards, hey, man, I want to get a new job, towards this, towards that, I say keep it narrow. Keep it narrow. If you want to do product design, just do product design. Leave JavaScript alone for now and just design beautiful interfaces. Talk about your problem-solving process and your knowledge of problem-solving, your critical thinking habits, and your communication skills. Those are the 4 things that you need to design and be a great product designer. Good visual UI design, a good problem-solving process, critical thinking, a habit of critical thinking, and communication skills. That's it. Those are 4. I'm going to be preaching that a lot. And so I'm going to be preaching that a lot. I don't know what my new course is going to be. It's going to be just something around the word common sense, probably. I don't know, common sense, but dumb it down. I tried learning JavaScript once, but then I'm like, I don't even use it day to day. So I was like, I'll leave that for the other experts, the front-end developers, stuff like that. Got 2 UX jobs in the past 3 years thanks to your tips. I appreciate that. August said he got 2 UX jobs. Good for you, bro. Congrats to that. Cheers from Argentina. Hey, Mike, could you talk a little bit about your workflow when it comes to UX work tools, file name structures? That's a good point. You know what? versioning start and deliverables. So somebody asked me about my workflow when it comes to my UX design workflow, file name, structures, and all that stuff, staying organized. To be honest with you, I'm not a good person when it comes to that. There's so many. I'm always embarrassed when I work with another designer and their file names are tight. Their structures are tight. Listen, I'm not good at that stuff. That was never my strong suit. It was never my strong suit. So I don't really advanced common sense for UX design like that. But that was never my strong suit. But my workflow basically is I'm heavy on communicating, building relationships with my developers, my product owners, my stakeholders, and getting them what they want. And so I get them the essentials of what they want and work with them through development to make sure that developers have a good demo of the products that we're designing. Make sure my stakeholders I'm in line with my stakeholders and I'm designing what they want. Make sure I'm in line with my product owners, making sure I'm in line with what they want, making sure we're hitting everything that the customer needs and fixing their pain points and stuff like that. And I make sure my day-to-day focus is literally like critical thinking throughout the entire thing. Is the user going to be able to use this? Or are they going to, am I solving their problems? Is the don't make me think principle. Do they have to think hard to navigate and take these actions, that these 5 key tasks that they use throughout this application? Am I making it easy for them? Can developers develop it? Am I solving for the requirements? And when we demo this to the stakeholders, are we considering this a win, right, under our belts for this particular release? Once we do that, that's my focus. File names, structures, paperwork, wireframes, sticky notes, whatever documentation. Honestly, I don't have time for that right now. That's my focus, is basically making sure we're getting a good product out and I'm hitting my mark. And when we get that out and I have good relationship with all my developers, all my product owners, all my stakeholders, and I'm making sure mentally that, hey, am I solving for the client's problems? Because that's important, right? And I'm using common sense as I'm breaking through all that. It's like that's it. What product I use, I don't care. People don't care if I use Sketch or Figma or Adobe XD or Microsoft Paint. None of that stuff matters. That's not essential. The essential stuff is delivering good products and then working with your stakeholders and innovating and moving towards new features and making sure you have happy customers. That's basically the meat and potatoes of a product designer. And that's the stuff that I focus on. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for everybody for checking in. Sri Lanka, everybody. Appreciate your vibe. What was the question? Do you think AI and virtual reality can add on value as a UX designer profile? I guess in yes and no. Yes and no, I guess. It depends on who you're working with. Obviously, if you want to work with Facebook and Oculus and all that stuff, that's going to be obviously great to have. But in certain companies, is probably overkill. Yeah, I'm going to record this. I'm going to record this and post this on my YouTube. So don't worry, you guys can watch it later. But so the question is, like, does VR and AI and all that stuff help for you as a UX designer to have that on your resume? The truth is, yes, for certain companies, but I'm not knowledgeable. When I go out if I go out for jobs, I'm not going for a job that has a heavy load of virtual reality and AI and stuff like that. We did a lot. I worked with a lot of folks with machine learning and stuff like that, but machine learning is just basic. Like, to me, they're the experts in machine learning, but machine learning is still just common sense, right? It's learning about things. And once I know what to present to the users and how to present it to them, I can design those screens, right? But the guy on the back end, the data scientist, is doing all the back end work for the machine learning and the neural what is it, the linguistics and all that stuff, and neural networks and stuff like that. And I do the simple stuff. At my last job, I worked with a data scientist, and we did we were taking an insurance company, we're taking them digital, and there was a lot of machine learning stuff going on in the back end, a lot of neural networks and stuff. And so when somebody answers a question and they enter their zip code, and they answer a small business answers a question and they enter their zip code, based on those details of the name of their company and what type of company they are, there's so many different things. And we take a questionnaire page that is essentially 100 questions, and we zero it down to like maybe 15 questions. That's all done on the back end, machine learning and all this artificial stuff. And my job is like, I don't care. I'm just creating screens for 15 questions. I don't care how it got there. I'm just doing the simple stuff, right? Again, common sense, right? It's this complex stuff. What is the user going to see? Think about all the apps we use. There's a lot of complexity going on in the world in all these apps, but it's just simple stuff, right? It's a simple interface, a simple UI, but there's a lot of complexity going on the back end. That's how I like to look at things. It's like, it's simple. Uber, Amazon, there's some complex stuff out there that I don't know. Like, I'm always impressed with Waze and all these different type of sites, but anyway, this was fun. I appreciate you guys. Checking in. I did about an hour. I thought I was gonna do 30 minutes, but I'm going to sign off. You guys get some sleep. Those of you on the East Coast, I'm gonna get some rest too. I'll post this on my YouTube. You guys can watch it later if you want, kind of skim through it if you want to touch on anything that I touched on. All right. I appreciate all you guys. And we'll be talking more. All right. I'll see you guys tomorrow. All right. Bye.